Good morning, members of the press, fellow Saint Lucians, all those of you who are watching both home and abroad. Thank you for listening and watching today. Today, I want to address the high cost of living plaguing our country at this time. I want to address the matter of relief for working families in St. Lucia. I want you to consider this recent statement by the Prime Minister. The removal of VAT from 70 food items. Now, it sounds good. And they are hoping you only hear the headline. But let us pause. Let us pause for a moment and unpack it. Let us examine this goose that the Prime Minister wants us to believe lays golden eggs. Yes, let us examine this goose that lays the golden eggs. Let us ask ourselves, where was this policy in 2022 or 2023 when bread prices suddenly increased from $5.40 to $6.50? That was a 20% increase. Yes, a 20% increase on the backs of Saint Lucians who are already struggling. What did the Prime Minister have to say? What did he have to say? Was that the time when he said to you that you can eat more green bananas? What words of comfort did the Prime Minister have? Can $5 block a hole? Where was this concern for struggling families when gas prices were climbing and supermarket bills were making families cry in silence? Why didn't the Prime Minister come to your assistance at this time? At a time when oil prices were at the lowest at $60 a barrel, this current government, this current SLP administration used this as an opportunity to milk the backs of Saint Lucians instead of reducing the cost of fuel. For the better part of 4 years, this administration ignored people's cries. Yes, ignored your cries. There was not a day that would go by when people were calling the talk shows, the radios, lamenting about the high prices, the high cost of living in St. Lucia. They were looking for reprieve, a relief. They didn't know where to turn. You go to the supermarket 1 week, the price of an item is $5, and the next week, it jumps to $10. Where was the Prime Minister then? This VAT removal is meant to give the impression that this government is acting in the interest of the people. I want you to ask yourself this question. Just ask yourself this question. Why now? Why now? Does the government care about themselves more than they care about the people? Has the government taken a look at how people who live on the minimum wage in this country survive? How do they pay their rent? their utilities? How do they send their children to school? How do they pay the bus fares for themselves and their children? And you know, some of these families, sometimes it's 5 or 6 persons in a home. I want you to understand the reality of what is happening in St. Lucia today. How has this government improved the lives of persons with children, especially single mothers? This VAT removal is not timely, and it is not structured in a way that ensures people feel the benefit. It is desperate damage control. It comes just in time for campaign season. But even now, this policy lacks clarity, urgency, and most importantly, impact. What's on the list? Do we know? Has a list been published? What is the full breakdown of the 70 food items? Can mothers find diapers or children's snacks on it? Is it local produce or imported luxury goods? And where is the monitoring mechanism? Without enforcement, there is no guarantee that the VAT relief will result in lower prices at the shelf. In fact, the Prime Minister admitted that prices may not fall. And I want you to listen carefully. The Prime Minister admitted that prices may not fall. A clear admission that this is all political theatrics. Because if a retailer keeps the price the same and simply pockets the savings, then this VAT removal becomes a tax break for businesses, not for you, the people. I want you to understand that clearly, because the government has no control over what businesses do. So then I ask, what exactly is being offered here? A press release or a real plan? Saint Lucians are not fooled. They know the difference between a solution and a stunt. What the government needs to do is to create employment. As I walk from community to community, corner to corner, the cries of the people is employment. We need jobs. We need jobs. We need jobs. We need opportunity. And the young people are saying, the system is failing us. No one cares. That is what you are hearing on the ground. At present, if we look at our tourism sector, we have tour guides unemployed for a 6-month period. We have hotel workers who are home on rotation, and taxi drivers with reduced incomes. All of these factors have a direct impact on the social and economic impact to the livelihoods of everyday Saint Lucians. Now let us look at the global impact as it relates to Saint Lucia. Over the past week, the conflict between Israel and Iran has escalated. As a result, this has caused global oil prices to rise sharply from US $60 to US $73 per barrel. Yes, just yesterday, US $73 per barrel. If this pattern continues, it will have a rippling effect on all goods and services in St. Lucia. Just pause for a moment and think of that. If this pattern continues, it will have a rippling effect on all goods and services in St. Lucia. And the people of St. Lucia will feel it. St. Lucia, as an import-heavy country, will feel the squeeze, not just at the gas station, but in the cost of transporting goods, the price of electricity, and ultimately at the supermarket shelves. So, this government knew what was coming. They knew that inflation would tighten again. And yet, instead of introducing comprehensive relief, they tossed out a last-minute election list with no teeth. If you truly care about the people, you prepare for impact. You don't wait until a storm hits that fuel market because you know the repercussions. This is not caring about people. This is putting the government before the citizens of this country. Here is what we would do differently. Remove the health and security levy of 2.5% now in order to ease the burden on struggling families. The cost of living crisis continues to choke Saint Lucians. Support local farmers and producers so we reduce dependence on costly imports. Include a monitoring and compliance mechanism to ensure that VAT relief actually reaches the consumer, not just the shelves. If you want to help people, help them for real, not just in the lead up to elections. The harsh reality is that St. Lucians are in pain every single day because the cost of living is just unbearable. But let me shift to something that ties into this. When I put forward a suggested solution to subsidize transportation, which has been successfully done before, the idea was flatly rejected by the Minister for Transportation. Transportation in everyday living takes the bulk of many persons' incomes. Many persons have to pay 3 or 4 buses to reach their destination. But what about the single mother from Rivière-Mitan who has 2 intelligent young boys attending Sir Arthur? Just imagine a single parent with 2 sons who she has to send to school, and they have to take more than 1 bus per day to reach the school. It costs them $20 one way, both ways, to actually get to school and back. So this doesn't even include the cost of her bus fare to get to work. So you could well imagine that the cost for transportation for this single mother is more than $20 a day, and especially if she's earning that minimum wage of $1,131. The bulk of her income is spent on transportation. Sometimes the children are left home and cannot attend school because there is no money for bus fare. When a child cannot attend school. This is not just a social issue. You are failing the youth of this country. You are preventing a child the opportunity for the future. And we need to ensure that something is done to ensure that there are opportunities for children in this country. The education system provides transportation subsidy to just a small percentage of children attending schools throughout the country, but it needs to be reviewed to impact a wider percentage of our student population. When I speak about VAT or transport or food security, I do so because I have lived the realities that many of you are living today. I know what it is like to budget $1, to stretch $1, and to see the pain in a parent's eyes when the money cannot stretch, and you cannot find money to buy food to feed your children. I know what that is like. And many of you in this country are feeling this pain today. You need a government who cares about this and who will implement solutions that are genuine, that take your needs into consideration, and are not there just because election season is on the rise and they are trying to put a bandage over a wound. Saint Lucia deserves better, and I intend to fight to right the wrong in this country. Thank you very much.